This week on Marngrook, Blues legend Robert Walls returns to the panel with Hawks superstar Sean Silk Burgoyne, Collingwood swingman Lyndon Dunn, and Demon defender Michael Hibberd join us. Layla Gurawiwi meets a Carlton stalwart. Plus, Rowan Connolly has all the news and some absolute gems in Rounds of Our Lives. Stick with us. This is Marngrook.
It's
Live from the Deakin Broadcast Studio, this is the Marngrook Footy Show with your hosts Grant Hansen and Gilbert McAdam.
Hello and welcome to Marngrook, and what a huge show we've got for you tonight. Lyndon Dunn and Michael Hibberd join us, and a huge round of footy ahead. But let's start by introducing tonight's panel, shall we? He's back, Carlton legend Robert Walls. Superstar Sean Burgoyne, Shelley Ware, and my co-host, the one, the only Gilbert McAdam. And before we do anything, I'd just like to say that we won't be talking about Ty Vickery or Jake King tonight, because that's a matter being dealt with by the police, and Jake won't be appearing tonight as advertised. But the Macedonian Marvel, Peter Dacos, has come off the bench for him, and he's our match analyst for tonight. Kelly, welcome to you. A great win by the Saints last weekend, and some interesting tactics there by Nick Riewoldt, and he might have sealed the deal for the game there.
Oh, look, that's just experience, and we've got 4 umpires. Not one umpire seen that. And then the poor kid that does it, that was a bad decision. I know he's only a young fella, and I know that he looked up to Nick, but you know what? Players have tried to manipulate the game many, many times over the years, and I'm sure Robert Walls would have some stories, and it won't be the last story, I'll tell you right now.
So have you got some stories, Rob?
A few, yes, but look, I think he was a bit cheeky there, Nick, but the young Dockers player, he will learn a lot from that, and he won't. One of the things I learnt in my very first game, I got hit across the bridge of the nose by John Dugdale, who was a hero to me. I was just 16, and he's given me a backhander, and I learnt from day one, you can't trust anyone else.
And the funny thing about that too, Sean, was that it wasn't even his free kick, Nick Riewoldt. So amazing he got 50 minutes, so milked it for what it was worth.
Yeah, it is, and you know, like I said before, players will do anything to get a little edge, and 50 metres it helps. So you just got to pay attention, and it happens every week. Even with the player with the ball, he's got the ball, he's trying to hold up play, and he's saying to the umpire, "Whose free is it?" He knows whose free it is, but he's just trying to waste some time. So it happens weekly.
You know, I've seen him do a few sneaky things on the field. Now, you know when the ball comes over, and the opposition's looking at the player, not the ball. Shawnee looks up where the ball isn't coming from, and it's come from the other direction. I've seen you do it. No, I've seen him do it, Rob. I've seen him do it.
Now, Wallsy, on the weekend, the Brisbane Lions had a fantastic win over Essendon. They kicked 6 of the last 7 goals to get over the top and win it. So Chris Fagan, a bit like yourself when you were coaching the Brisbane Bears, I think it was at the time, he's done a fantastic job just rebuilding that young side. He's got the spine happening with some good big young fellas in that side. So they're on track, Brisbane.
Eric Hipwood, I think, is going to be a really good player for them. He's tall, he's athletic, and you know, young Shaki will get back into that team too before long. I just think Harris at fullback is a beauty. So there's some talent there, but the thing that I hear is that the players just love their coach. They just think the coach is fantastic. Sean, you know more about him than I would, but it just seems he's got their confidence.
Yeah, he does. He's a really good communicator. And I think he's built up the trust of the playing group, and I think he's gone in there with some new ideas, and it seems the playing group are really embracing those ideas and having a crack game day. And those guys you mentioned are going to be very good players from in the future, and they've been able to re-sign them too and keep them up there, which is good for Brisbane.
And not just the younger fellas. He's been able to reinvent Rockcliffe, you know, he just come to the club and he goes, I've heard this and that, what are you going to do about it? Well done to Rockcliffe for taking the challenge on. Look what he's done. But not just him, other elder players. Look at Zorko, he's
Yeah.
He's an all-Australian form, Rob.
Yeah, he's been
Mitch
good.
Robinson.
Rich has played some good footy this year.
And apparently they have like 3 meetings a year where the whole playing group and the coaching staff get together, and they're very open about the process and what's happening at the club, and everyone can speak openly.
Honesty.
Yeah, and it seems to be really working
They
for
have
the
a very
club.
strong culture at the club, that's for sure, and they're all really happy and really comfortable there, so it's
And
good
it's
to
showing
see.
too, showing
Yeah.
because they're enjoying their footy, and when you enjoy your footy, you usually win games, Rob.
Does the AFL still give them a priority pick, Robert?
Well, if they keep winning a few more games, Gilly, no. I'd like to see them get a little bit of support because they've done it hard for quite a few
They
years.
deserve it.
financially
They
too.
deserve it.
Now, Sean, congratulations to you last week on the win, and geez, brother, personally, you're having a fantastic season. I know you're 35 years old, and you just seem to, you're like a bottle of wine. You seem to be getting better. There you are.
He's not even grey anymore. Look,
Anymore.
well, look, he's not even grey.
So you're 35, mate, but you're playing probably some of the best football of your career. You've played in like 4 premierships, and you just keep getting better. And I think Gilbert, without trying to embarrass Sean, that I think he'll be one of the best Indigenous players of all time by the time he hangs up his boots. No doubt about it. Reckon, folks?
Oh, well done. Did you realise on the weekend that he's reached the top 20 all time in the history of VFL AFL? Top 20 he's reached. Now, another season ahead, he might get top 15, top 10. Brother, you've got 2 years left in you.
We'll see how we go. You can't get too swept up in this stuff. At the moment, as a player, you've got to keep it realistic. And for me, at the moment, it's weekly. I'm only 1 injury away from not playing the game again. I know that. As you get older, it's very, very tight. The things that can happen to prevent you from playing. So
Don't say it out loud and it won't happen.
I approach each week as it's my last week, and that's the way I want to enjoy my footy.
I
You look
often
like you're
wonder
enjoying
with
it.
players like yourself that are 35 years old but still playing good football, what's the thought process? And Robert, it must be a hard line to define when is the right time to retire, like when you're still playing good football. Some players, like, say, Dougie Hawkins, our very own Dougie Hawkins, didn't know when he wanted to retire, he wanted to keep playing. Sometimes the coach or the club has to make that decision for you, but the way you're going, you could sort of keep going for another 2 years. But what's some of the things that you weigh up in your mind about continuing playing?
there's a lot
Obviously
of
getting a kick. Well, is there any other things that come into the equation?
Yeah, well, you got to be able to get a kick, be injury-free. The position of the club, where they're heading, the younger players, all those things come into your mind, and you got to sit down with the coaching group and have a fair income chat. Where he thinks you're at, and do you think you can go on next year? And you probably have those chats over your time where you've sat down with players and given them the good news and the bad news, so you're probably on the other end of it.
Look, giving the bad news is one of the toughest things as a coach because you're talking about players who've played for a decade, played in premierships, have won best and fairest, have done it all, and it's tough when you've got to say, look, I think your career's over. So that is a tough part, but I think in your case, Sean, you're playing so well, you should continue, and the club wants you to continue. Yeah. Just a quick one, you've been around for a long time, you've played in premierships, Port Adelaide and Hawthorn. Can you give us the names of a couple of players who you've really enjoyed playing alongside?
At Port, I really enjoyed playing, obviously, with Gavin Wanganeen, childhood idol, Warren Treadray, and Michael Wilson was a favourite of mine, just his mental toughness to push his body when he wasn't feeling too good, physically, and he was able to get the job done. And then coming across to Hawthorn, obviously Hodgie and Mitch, probably Cyril and Buddy. There's 4 there, all outstanding players and all bring great things to the game, champions.
Now, you've been very fortunate with your career, that is for sure, but lately we've seen a huge number of boys actually stepping forward and taking a break from football due to mental health issues. Yep. I'm just wondering, is it something, you've been in the game for a while, as we've just all talked about, is it something that we can say that is social media, or that, we've had more of an influence with the growth of football media? What do you think's going on?
Yeah, it's, players these days are under more scrutiny, that's obviously a given. There's a lot more media coverage, social media. Personally, when I first came into the game, it wasn't spoken about too much and players didn't speak up. Obviously, we're all men, and when you first come in, it's kind of like you're tough and you don't talk about those things. But as the game's evolved and people evolved over the last 10 or so years, players have spoken up more and come out and said they're struggling. And I think it's good that they do that because it shows that players are human and they're not Superman. They can have these issues, and it'd be surprising. Did you have any players, were you coached, Wolsey, that you thought may have had some problems, but they didn't speak up?
Sean, sadly, one player I coached suicided. Another player spent time in a psychiatric hospital when his career was over. Wasn't talked about in those days, and fortunately today it's so much better and there's so much more support and understanding.
I think in the whole community as
exactly.
a whole, the stigma of mental health has gone from
especially in the last 10 years. I really think the education of everybody's grown. My understanding of mental health is very different to what it was 10 years ago.
And understanding all the different types of mental health, anxiety and depression and bipolar and all those sorts of things.
I think the AFL do a good job with the Beyond Blue round. We promote it and get players to speak up about it, and we have ambassadors for those rounds as well. And this year, we had Fasolo, obviously Cloak, and now Tom Boyd speaking up about the issues they're facing, and hopefully that sheds some light for the community as well, and just makes it people more aware.
Okay, well, let's hold it there, shall we? And have a look at our first game, St Kilda versus Richmond, Saturday night at Eddie Gilly, and this one will be a beauty. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, the Saints, Savage back in there. He's been on our Marngrook panel a few times. Mackenzie's in there, and Young Longy's in there, so good to see him in there. Weller's out omitted, that's an interesting one, and Webster's with that silly suspension. Dunson being omitted, but Carlisle, he's in good form, 100 games for the Tigers. Hunt's in there, and Markov's been omitted, but Lloyd's played 50 games. This is at Etihad. This is going to be a ripper of a game. And don't forget the, can I mention it, or you can mention it, Layla?
You go.
I was just going to mention it's the Matty Rewalt. So get out and support.
Yes, that's right, exactly. No need to apologise, Gilly, but it's fourth taking on eighth in this game, and both teams will be very excited after their respective wins last round. But Sean, Jack Stevens, he is in really good form, played great last week, should have another big game this week, and is touted to be the favourite for the BNF for the Saints this year.
Yeah, obviously he's had a couple of fantastic years. Jack keeps racking up the possessions, works really hard. Gets a lot of 1-2s because he uses his speed. He's able to follow up really quickly. But at St Kilda, there's about 8 players named Jack, so you've got to watch him carefully. But he's an outstanding player, and he's one of the workhorses of their midfield.
Now, Wolsey, the midfield battle is always very important, but in this game in particular, it will be very important because Webster's gone to that St Kilda midfield. But as we say, Stephen's playing some good footy at the moment. But I think this game could be won in the midfield.
Well. I've just come back from France. They're even talking about Dusty Martin over there.
Oh, really?
His reputation has spread far and wide, and will probably be the Brownlow medalist. If he can be contained, I know they've been playing him up forward a bit as well, but he's in rare form. But I think it's a great challenge for the young Saints to come up against an informed Richmond. It'll be a big crowd, big game, and I think because I think the Saints have won their last 3 games, so whoever wins this, it'll be a real confidence booster.
Talk about when Rob used to coach back in his day, and coach had a lot to say. And in the modern day footy, Shawnee, you'd be familiar with this. And I really loved the footage of the weekend footy when I seen Cochin and Rance at half time. And we knew what happened to Rance. He was tagged and he hardly got a possession. And, it was like no one else was involved. Just those two were involved. And it was like a moment in the game where the game turned around. That was brilliant footage. I love that.
And Kelly, I think the good thing for Richmond this year is the young kids, they keep standing up every week, and I thought they might fall away, the second and third tier players. Constagna's been consistent every week. Rioli's been really good every week, and that's a real bonus for the club because they've maintained their form, which has allowed them to keep winning games.
They've got 2 small Indigenous great players, and it's a bit of a carbon copy of the Adelaide Crows. And you look at this young Stengel, and then you look at this other young boy, Bolton, I think it is. Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, you put them in there with the others. They've got like 4 smally mids, 2 talls. Their forward line is looking very dangerous. But, on the other end, St Kilda's defence has probably been their best, so it sets up for a good game.
Let's get tips on this one. Robert, your selection, Saints or Richmond?
I'm going to go for the Tigers.
Tigers. Later.
Grant, St Kilda are aiming for their 4th consecutive win for the first time since round 17 to 20 in 2011. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be Richmond that wins this one.
Tigers. Sean?
Well, I'll go with the Tigers. They're playing some pretty good footy at the moment.
Well,
Well, I think the Tigers' defence is just going to be too strong for your Saints.
Oh, look, the travel last week over to Perth. But they'll come back strong because that was a really team spirit-lifting game. But I'm not going for Tigers, you know that.
And of course, this is Matty's match, as you said, Gilly.
Yes.
Played in the memory of Matty Revol, raising awareness and funds for Matty's vision, established to find new treatments and ultimately a cure for bone marrow failure syndrome. This year you can support Matty's vision by purchasing Matty's membership. So get on the phone and help out, folks. And in saying that, Gilbert, I think the Saints will make the 8 this year. I'm going for St Kilda. Okay. Let's move on to our next game. North Melbourne up against Fremantle Sunday at Etihad Stadium.
Yeah, the Kangas. Cunnington's back in there after that silly suspension on Demont. Well, he's a young star of the future. Nelson Bruce is back in the big ruckman. Simpkin and Zaha, I think that's how you pronounce it. But out the side, Wait. Well, if he doesn't get suspended, he gets injured. They're going to miss him. McMillan and Woods out of there for the mighty Dockers. Hill's back. What a player he is. Kirsten. Nihas, I think that's how you pronounce it. DeLuca and Blakely. Sandilands, well, he just got back. I don't know. I think he's like a horse. He just keeps getting injured anyway. McCarthy's out with a suspension, and this is Etihad, brother. This will be a good game.
Gilly, you say he's like a horse. I hope they don't shoot him.
Now, North, they are going to want to redeem themselves from when they gave up their 5-point lead at three-quarter time last time these two teams met. Now, Todd Goldstein, he would have been expecting to come up against Aaron Sandilands, Sean, but instead he's got Sean Darcy, who is just a young player coming in. I think he's be his second or third game. So you'd expect that Todd will have a huge impact on this game.
Yeah, you would, obviously. Experienced players, also got Ben Brown and Majak Dor who can help him out in the ruck as well. So they'd be looking to have first use of the ball and make up for last week.
Right, let's get a selection on this game, Wallsy. The Kangaroos or Fremantle?
I'm going for Freo, and I think Michael Walters will kick the winning goal.
Redeem himself. Play on.
I think North Melbourne at home.
Kangaroos. Sean?
I'm going to go with Wolsey and I'm going to say Fremantle.
Fremantle. Shelley?
It's North Melbourne for me.
North for Shelley. And Gilly?
Oh, look, that Mickey Walters in a losing side. I've never seen a person play that good. I'm going for Dockers.
Upset. Kangaroos will win this one.
Is that an upset?
Yeah, it is, because they're second on the second bottom ladder at the moment. So, okay, time for a quick break. Michael Hibbert up next. Don't go away.
So Shorter instead and Salem, who goes to the man who's run down Hibbert. Now we'd love a goal here. First game as a demon, and he kicks his first.
Okay. He's making his mark at the Demons. Please welcome Michael Hibbert to Marngrook. Welcome, buddy. Good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, look, I know it's been a tough, probably 2 years for you. You stood out of football for the last 12 months, being involved at the Essendon Football Club and missing footy for 12 months. Just tell us about the transition. Has it been hard for you to find your feet coming back in after a 12-month layoff?
No, it hasn't been too hard. It's it's been a lot of fun being in a new club, a new environment. I've really enjoyed it, and I've fit in really well to the system down there, and playing some good footy with a good group in the back line. I had a nice year off. Got away and had some fun, but it's really good to be back playing footy.
Michael, Melbourne Footy Club, we love watching you play this year. The way you have come out this year and played footy, you have made a statement, I honestly believe. And one thing I've noticed with your side is you haven't played with your best 22, or you haven't even played with your best 16, to be quite honest. And I'm going to mention some names. Kennedy Harris in the reserves, he's getting 39 up to 40 touches every week. Wiedemann kicked 6 the other week. Kent's been in terrific form. The forgotten man at the club, Trengrove, was a captain of that footy club once upon a time. We don't even mention his name. You got people like Jack Watts, who's aren't playing, Jesse Hogan. The future's very bright for you, I'll tell you.
Yeah, it is. It's a bright future for the footy club. We've got a lot of depth on the list, like you just said. A lot of those players could be playing senior footy, and when their opportunity comes, hopefully they grab it with both hands and and play their best footy when they get into the team. But right now, we're just trying to figure out who's going to play because there's so many injuries and all that. But once we get our best team out on the park, hopefully we can really string some wins together.
And Michael, I actually think you brought a lot of experience into the team and it shows on the field. Who have you taken under your wing or who took you under their wing when you arrived as well?
I was just trying to find my feet early, so I didn't really take anyone under the wing, but I work closely with the back line. So probably Neville Jetta, Jaden Hunt, Sam Frost, Oscar McDonald, guys like that who I've worked with quite a bit. They're the guys I've spent most of my time with. But I've probably fed off the leaders a bit more. Jordan Lewis, Bernie Vince, Nathan Jones, Jack Viney. I've got to know those guys a lot better, and they've been good for my footy.
And Simon Goodwin, he's brought a whole new lease of life to your football as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be back working with Goody. I worked with him at Essendon. He was a midfield coach there, and someone I really respect and a bit of a mentor of mine. And it's good to be actually back at a footy club where he's the head coach because I look up to him quite a bit.
Was he one of the main reasons you chose Melbourne? Because obviously you would have formed a really good relationship as an assistant coach because you spent a lot of time going through tapes and then. So was that a big factor? Yeah,
definitely. I watched the Melbourne Footy Club quite a bit in my year off, and when I was making my decision to so whether I was going to stay or leave, Goody was a big push for that because I'd spent a lot of time with him at Essendon, and I thought the way he coached was the right way, and now that I'm here with him, it's good fun.
Michael, has Simon sat the group down and spoken to you about the use of Twitter?
We've had a couple of chats over the last few weeks. We want to be a club where whatever comes out in the media, it's always team first, and it's not we're not posting individually. We've got to have the team in the back of our minds, and we've had many chats about what's right and what's wrong, what to say.
Now, Michael, when you're away for the game for 12 months, you visited Spain and you and a few of the teammates had a run with the Bulls. Now, I couldn't imagine you doing this, Gilly, but I reckon it's a pretty gutsy thing to do. And was there any scary moments when you were doing that?
Yeah, there was. Pretty narrow streets, the cobblestone streets. So they're only probably 5-6 metres wide, and the Bulls seem about 3 metres wide. So yeah, had a few close.
Don't the locals push you in as well when you're trying to get out?
Well, there's about 10 to 20,000 people actually running through the streets, so you've got to actually watch the people more than the actual Bulls themselves. But that was good fun.
What about you, Gilly? Would you do that?
I never did that, but I've been at a cattle station where there's been a lot of cattle, and my dad's told me open the gate up, and then you've got 100 cattle coming at you. I've been in that situation. But
it's pretty close.
Now, look, I wanted to ask him about how Melbourne have become a bit. I'll be honest, I reckon they've become a little bit undisciplined. And I'll take us back to where Jordan Lewis probably, where it started with him and Jesse Hogan, and then, a few incidents with Buggy and, just a few little things that's crept into the footy club. And I haven't seen that from Melbourne Footy Club, but you know what? I sort of like the way you have changed your footy, because if you want to be a side that wants to be a threat to all the other clubs, you have to show that. But it's a very fine line. That's where you are at, I believe.
Yeah, we want to be a footy club that's that lives on the edge and plays on the edge and a hard team to play against. But we don't want to cross that line either. We want to be respected by the competition, and we want to be disciplined as well. There's been some acts over the course of the year that we've been disappointed with, and we've had certain talks inside the footy club about them. But as I said, we want to be respected by the competition, and undisciplined acts aren't going to help that.
Now, you played your VFL football at Frankston, and last year they lost their licence. But the good news is they're going to be back next year, so do you actually keep in touch with the club? And, geez, mate, that's a pretty good hairstyle there.
Yeah, completely different.
It's a shocker, isn't it? Someone should have gave me some good advice to get rid of that earlier. Yeah, it's not good.
How's your body going? Like Grant asked you before, with the fallout, are you getting tired, or have your body started to refresh again? How are you feeling?
I feel like the year off's actually helped me a little bit. I had a bit of patellar tendonitis issues early and an Achilles issue early in the year that I missed the first 4 games with. But as the year's gone on now, I feel like I'm running out the games a lot better, and I'm feeling fitter and better for it.
Now, Michael, one thing we know is that you can play football reasonably well, but Yeah, people also don't know that you can actually catch food in your mouth. And tell us about this, mate, because is it something that you've worked on, or is it just a natural skill?
You got a few there. It's not bad.
Oh.
Have you had hours of practice with that?
That could be messy, dumplings.
Yeah, I don't know if the dietitian's going to be pretty happy with saying that. There's a few
That was
lollies
the
in that.
break.
Yeah.
Man, you used to do that with the Tic Tacs 20 years ago.
Let's hold it there. Let's have a look at the Carlton-Melbourne game, Gilly. And it's going to be playing this one Sunday at home of football, the MCG.
Yeah, Lamb, good to see him there, the ex-GWS, and Sam Petrovski's back in there in the side. Byrne, McCready, he's a good little player too, and McKay. Out of the side, Sumner's been omitted, and Marchbank's out with his shoulder. He's been terrific in that defence. For the D's, well, Jaffo is back. I spoke about Trentgrove, the ex-skipper. He's in there along with Kent. Jesse Hogan's back. That's great stuff. Kennedy Harris is back. Wiedemann's back, Smith's back, so they've made some changes. Tyson's going to be out with a knee bug with that suspension. Viney, gee, I love watching him play. He's the best spiritual captain that I've seen in the comp. And White's out. MCG, brother, this will be a good game.
Wolsey, Liam Jones at Carlton at the moment. He's really turned his career around. In the last 4 games, he's got three. He's got out of the three of the last 4 games rather. He's polled votes from the coaches.
Yeah, he's been terrific, Grant. I saw him last week, and I thought this is a new player. Like, his confidence is up. He's attacking the ball. That change of position to go into defence has just suited him, and I'm really happy for him because it's certainly what Carlton need is a big, strong-bodied player in that back line, and I think their back 6 is starting to shape up pretty well. Who do I think will win? I reckon if Carlton can kick more than 14 goals, I reckon they can win. That's the worry with the Blues. They just don't kick enough goals.
I thought you were going to say if Carlton can kick more goals than Melbourne, they'll win.
Yeah,
What about Jess Hogan? He's back in the side. He's been out for a few weeks. So it must be great for him and for the club and the team to have him back in.
Yeah, definitely. He's he's a big force for us up forward, and he's been back training for a few weeks now. He's been named in the team, and hopefully he does play because we've missed him over the last month or so anyway.
Absolutely. Now, the battle between last year's All-Australian ruckman Max Gawn and this year's favourite Matthew Cruiser, that will be an important one during this game.
Yeah, it's good to have Maxie back. He's he's in form straight away after the 2 games he's played since the hamstring injury. So he's getting his hands first on the ball, but it'll be a great contest in the middle, and I reckon that could be where it's won.
I think what was so great about when Max came back into the game, it wasn't like he really stood out. That's how well all of you boys are playing. Like he just sort of slid straight in, and it wasn't the big hurrah that everyone was expecting because all of you boys are playing so well as a team.
Yeah, definitely. I think he just plays his role, Max, and he dominates in the ruck, and hopefully on the weekend he can do that. Yeah, I don't think he's kicked a goal yet since he's been back. He'll be pretty keen to kick a couple anyway.
Now, Wolsey, just to clarify it for me, was you picking your former side Carlton to beat Melbourne on the weekend?
Of course.
Okay. Carlton for Wolsey. Of course, I know Michael's going for. Sean, your selection?
I think it's great that Hogan's back. It's a really, really good story that he's back and playing, and I'm going to go with Melbourne.
Michelle, you pick with your Blues?
Of course I'm picking that. Liam Jones, he's starting to talk with contract negotiations, so make sure you get that pen out, Liam, because we want you to stay at the Blues, so Blues for me.
Okay. Gilly?
I reckon Melbourne got a bit of a footy lesson last week, but don't worry, they'll bounce back and they'll beat Carlton.
I think there's an eye-opener for them playing against some quality opposition in the Sydney Swans. They're veterans, so it was good.
It's important, they need to do
playing
that.
against a good side.
You have to.
Shell, what's happening in the world of social media this week in the AFL?
Well, talking about Liam Jones, he seems to be what we're all talking about, isn't he? Now we're going to have a look at some of his boots that he's going to wear this weekend. His sister organised some boots especially painted by Marlu's Shoes, so they look fantastic for NAIDOC week. So they look great, so hope they bring him some good luck there against Melbourne. And Mason Cox, he celebrated the 4th of July with everyone here in Australia. Not the same fireworks and the carry-on, and he said his American friends are keeping him sane, so I don't know, maybe the Australian ones are making him crazy, not so sure. But you know, that's what we are, we're a little bit crazy in Australia, so we're happy for that. And Jake Melcham. I'd always have that K in there and it always gets me. I said to Layla at the start it's going to get me because I look down. I'm sure I've got dyslexia. But it's been a pleasure. No, it hasn't. Now I'm losing my mind here. He's got... We'll get back to it. Now you went on and you had a bit of a break for the 2 days there and you went out to the Oak Ridge Winery, and I'm not sure what's going on with the glass there on the head. What's going on upside down on his head, Michael Hibbert?
Well, everyone was getting all serious, so I thought I'd lighten up the mood and put the glass on there. It was empty, so it's fine.
I thought that might have been a new trick, catch food in your mouth and do something with the glass on your head.
Pour wine on my head.
It's a little bit silly.
Michael, it's been a pleasure having you on the show tonight. Best luck for the rest of the year. Please put your hands together, folks, for Michael Hibbert. Peter Dacos is up next after the break. This is Marngrook. And welcome back to Marngrook. It's time to meet tonight's match analyst. Please welcome the Macedonian marvel, Peter Dacos. Welcome, Dakes.
Thank you, Grant.
Always good to see you.
Oh, and you?
You're looking wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you. I bet you say that to all the panellists.
Yeah. Now, look, let's talk about Collingwood because, you know, Collingwood are always newsworthy when they're winning and when they're losing, but at the moment they are really struggling, and obviously the more they lose games...
Hold on, this is workplace harassment. This is... What do you need to know?
No, well, people are talking about Nathan Buckley. He's been there for 6 years. He inherited a very good team from Michael Malthouse. All of a sudden, since he's been coaching, every single year they've gone down and down and down the ladder, whereas actually Carlton are probably going to sit on top of Collingwood very soon, Dakes, but that's another story. Does he stay or does he go? Seriously.
Well, firstly, you probably have to ask yourself who comes in and are there any candidates. Personally, I would say, look, I'm in that position. I have a boy there, but you know, I personally think that a one-year extension wouldn't be uncalled for. I mean, because let's face it, if you're going to replace him, you've got to make sure that you have a ready-made replacement. I don't think they can get it wrong again.
Can I play devil's advocate? Shouldn't they have thought about that when they tried to replace Michael Malthouse with an untried coach in Nathan Buckley? Why didn't they go and get someone like Luke Beveridge, who was already coaching at the club at the time? Why didn't they look around then for a guy that had good qualifications and an untried coach?
Well, I reckon there's been a few teams that have probably made a similar type mistake. Michael Voss was probably one that comes to mind. James Hurd's another one.
No longer coaching. Both of them are no longer coaching.
But there's a lot of clubs that have made some quite good choices too, sort of bringing in first-term coaches. So look, you know, and I know Shawnee's here, but I mean, we got into Shawnee early in the year. I mean, it's a long season. We've still got a few games to go, and I still think that he's... let's just wait for the year to run out. 6 weeks ago, the Swans were battling as well.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the game of the round. It's Adelaide versus the Bulldogs. Friday night at Adelaide Oval, and let's have a look at the changes, Dakes.
Well, for Adelaide, good to see Scotty Thompson back. I know Wolsey was talking about him off air, so it's good to see him back. Andy Otten's back. He's had a good year, tending to play as a forward. Charlie Cameron, well, he's just sensational down in the forward line. Beach goes out, Greenwood out, and Hardigan out for the Crows.
And let's swing across now to the Western Bulldogs, and 4 changes there.
Well, the Doggies, Boyd comes in. I watched Matty Boyd last week. Was the best in their VFL team. Liberatore, good to see Tommy back. I think they need him at his very best. Roberts and Smith also join the ins. Murphy's out, a big loss off half-back, that running half-back flanker. Campbell, Biggs and Dixon. Biggs has sort of gone out probably 3 times this year.
And Dakes, I'm really dumbfounded at the moment the way the Bulldogs are performing. I see no remnants of last year's side that are playing this year. There's nothing that's from last year's and this year's game of the Bulldogs. And I remember when Collingwood won the flag when you were playing in 1990, and the next year he's had a very bad year as well. And Wolsey, you could probably jump in on this one too. Why does that happen with a club? Like this year, as I said, I watched the Bulldogs. I don't see any of those things that they did last year, the manic tackling that they did, running into space, the open forward line, all that. That's all gone out the window, and they're lucky they can win a game at the moment.
and probably the style that they were playing, Rob, was probably evident probably at the latter part of last year. But I think you have to look at the personnel. I mean, Caleb Daniel's been a little bit down this year. He's been nowhere near his very best. I've got Liberatore on my list, Johannesson, Lockie Hunter's been a bit down. And Jakey Stringer's been a bit up and down. So if we're talking about 5 players there, it probably equates to 25% of their team. And I probably missed a few too. So I reckon...
It's an interesting one, Dakes, and I reckon Sean's a perfect fella to give us the answer, like to back up after you've won premierships, which the Hawks have done. It shows a real maturity, and I just reckon that some of these Bulldogs players, they got more publicity last year, and deservedly so. But they've been hunted this year, and other teams have worked them out. And you know, who maybe is a little bit soft, let's say. Maybe players who don't like the pressure on them all the time. Maybe verbal, a few of them. And I just reckon that it's affected them. But Sean, your boys have done it so well.
Yeah, well, in 2008 they won the flag and they learnt a valuable lesson in 2009. I don't think they made the finals the next year. And going into 2013, 14 and 15, where he still had a few players who were at the club then, and you just got to come out weekly and perform your absolute best, because teams are putting you up on the pedestal and they're coming at you weekly. And
there's comparisons. I'll tell you why. Now, if you look at Hawthorn just recently, they've been able to back it up, okay? But since 2008, where did they finish? They finished down the bottom of the ladder. Now, you know why? Because all of that 2008 premiership team from Hawthorn, they were playing in the premiership and it was the first time they won it. What happened to Bulldogs last year? Every one of them players have never won in a premiership, never played in a premiership, never played in the grand final. You got to remember, it's the unknown for them. They've never been through this. So automatically this year, they're the hunted. So straight away, I'm talking the majority of the team have never played in one, they've never backed it up. Of course there's going to be hiccups. Hawthorn, it took them 88, 09, and then they won the premiership. What year? It took you 3 or 4 years?
yeah, 13, 14, 15.
Well, that's how long it took them, so be patient, because it's going to happen.
Now, the Crows...
No, but it's a fair point.
The Crows, they have a very dangerous forward line, as you know, Dakes, and the player that's been really dangerous the last few weeks is Josh Jenkins, and you know, he's going to cause a few headaches for the Bulldogs backline. I'm just curious who might pick him up. Will it be, who might be Easton Wood maybe, or might be Fletcher Roberts?
Morris tends to sort of get the job there. Cordy, I've noticed, has also been named down there. But look, I think to tackle the likes of the very good players in any forward line, but let's take Josh Jenkins as an example. I mean, leaving a player one out to go against him, you know, sort of you do that at your peril a little bit. So it's really that support. But I think the hardest part is you put attention on Josh Jenkins and someone else is going to bob up. So I think that's the other thing. They've got so many unsuspecting assassins in their forward line that one's a bit quiet and the other one will come up.
All right, let's get a selection, Wolsey. Bulldogs or Adelaide?
I'm going for Adelaide because it's in Adelaide.
Yeah, look, Adelaide for mine at home, very hard.
Sean?
Yeah, obviously Adelaide Oval, I think Adelaide will get the job done.
And congratulations to Eddie Betts, who is equal 6 with Darryl White on the most games played by an Indigenous footballer, and that is 268 games this weekend, and Adelaide for me.
I just reckon the Bulldogs will be happy to get out of Melbourne. They'll all go over there to Adelaide maybe a little bit earlier. Put up with the Adelaide supporters over there for a few days. You know what? Don't ask me why, but I'm going for an upset, and I reckon Bulldogs are going to win this game. Don't ask why. I just got a funny feeling. You know, I'll get that feeling.
I'm going for an upset too, because I'll be upset when the
You're
Bulldogs,
just going
when
for
the
it 'cause
Bulldogs
you're going
lose
for it.
this one. I'll be upset, all right. But I think Eddie Betts will have a game of his life, 268 deadly games, as Shelley said. But I think Eddie probably kick 4 or 5 goals on the weekend. So the Crows, for me, unfortunately.
Have we got time for...
What?
I was going to ask Robert...
No, you can't ask anymore.
All right, sorry.
Okay, Dakes, let's go to the next game, the Eagles. And they're taking on Port on the weekend. And, well, West Coast at home, they'll be hard to beat.
All right, Lacroix comes back, which is good. So a goal scorer comes in. Pritis, whose form's been down a little bit this year, so it is good to see Matty Pritis back. The skipper, Shannon Hearn, is back. Schofield and Lycett, who actually is playing his 50th game also, is into the team. Butler and Marston go out of the team.
Well, let's Port Adelaide have a look at them. 3.
Yeah, well, Homsch, Atley and Drew are the ins, and at the moment I think they've got quite a few on the bench, so they'll refine that as we get closer to game time. So,
how do you think this game will pan out, Pete?
well, West Coast clearly at home. I mean, there's two parts of their game. At home, they're very, very good, and they're clearly going to most games favourites, if not all. They were very good last week. I thought taking a decent scalp in the Western Bulldogs. Jack Darling was promising last week. He really dominated for a big man, taking marks and kicking goals and setting up a few was very good. But they were very direct last week. I thought their game was very, very good.
And big Nathan Vardy starting to make his mark at the Eagles, and he's been a handy pick-up for them. He was impressive last week. And his duel with Paddy Ryder, well, that'll be an interesting clash.
Well, it will. That was a great goal. I mean, that pretty much sealed the game and the fate of the Doggies. But look, Paddy Ryder's form's been terrific this year, and he's a good foil. He's very mobile. I know he was in the footy wilderness for a long time there, so it is good to see him back. He's doing a lot of work around the ground and certainly giving first use at the stoppages. So he's been very good.
Where do you see Port Adelaide at the moment, Rob? Because they haven't got a real good scalp, have they?
No.
And I don't know if Eagles is a scalp. I mean, they're in the top 8, but over there it would be.
It'd be a big win for them to get the 4 points there, Gilly. They haven't beaten a team in the top 8. That's what we keep hearing, that they've got to beat some class. I think they can do it. Like, I think Port Adelaide at their best are a very skillful side, and Robbie Gray's a beauty. Paddy Ryder in the ruck. Charlie Dixon's important for them up forward. Look, it wouldn't surprise me if they won over there. But as you say, Dakes, the Eagles got a win away from Western Australia, which was important, and Vardy played a really good game. Drew Petrie's been handy for them as well.
Yeah, he has, yep.
Dakes, what about Powell Pepper? He's one of those guys
very good last
very
week.
aggressive, and he sort of sets the tone for Port Adelaide, doesn't he? And they need to watch him, because when he gets on top early, he gives that side a lot of confidence.
Well, he's sort of he's in the face of the opposition. I like, so you know, for a kid that's played not a lot of football, I mean, he's got a lot of front, and I mean it in the nicest possible way. But he certainly complements the likes of Ollie Wines, you know, that tough type midfielder, and he's taking a bit of the pressure off these players. So. He's a goal kicker, he's a scorer, and he's very physical.
Right.
He's
Selection, Rob, West Coast or Port?
Upsets every week. I'm going to go for an upset with Port Adelaide to win.
Adelaide to beat Wolseley. Dakes, your selection?
I've got to go West Coast today.
At home, says the legend from Collingwood. Sean?
Yeah, because it's in Perth, I'll go West Coast.
And another congratulations to young Port defender Dan Houston. He signed a 2-year extension to his contract, so that is fantastic. Good luck to you, but I think it's going to be West Coast.
I just reckon it's a really important game for West Coast, because if they win this game, their top 4 chances are alive. If they don't, they're still in the hunt with the 8. That's why West Coast will win, because they got more to play for.
Seen West Coast play last week, wasn't that impressive? I think Port Adelaide will win this one. Port. Okay, let's take a look at the next game, Dakes. It's Brisbane taking on Geelong Saturday night at the Wollongabba. And let's have a look firstly at the Brisbane Lions, Dakes.
So the Lions, Beams and Hamilman are the ends. Barrett and Gardner are out. Good to see Dane Beams back. He's a really super player and a good leader. Has been a good leader this year. For the Cats, welcome return to Selwood. And Parford, who I'm a big rap. This kid's got a big future. The outs, Black and Simpson for the Cats.
Okay, well, we're fastly running out of time, Wolsey, so let's just get a selection on this game. Brisbane or Geelong?
Geelong.
Geelong, Wolsey. An upset, Dakes. Can we see Brisbane?
Lions.
Brisbane, Lions, Dakes. Sean.
Yeah, Geelong for me.
And Geelong for me. And Patrick Dangerfield has had his first little baby boy, and he was pretty happy to see that Willie from all accounts. Congratulations. Geelong for me.
Gilly?
Oh, well, the travel won't affect them, will it?
No.
No, well, they've been there for 5 days at Mad World and Crazy World, or whatever you call it.
Yes, no, who you selected?
Dream World or whatever.
Yeah. Who are you going
I'm
for?
going to Brisbane in an upset.
Okay. G'day, Gilly. I think Geelong will win this one in a close one by about 10 goals. Geelong. Dakes, it's been a pleasure as usual. Give it up for Peter Dakos, folks. Okay, well, let's go backstage now with Layla, who's with our next guest.
Thanks, Grant. I'm here with Collingwood's Lyndon Dunn. Lyndon, a quick question. Who was your footy hero growing up?
It was Jason Dunstall, had him on my footy jumper when I was a kid.
Oh, fantastic. So Lyndon and I will be back on the panel after the break, so stay tuned.
Brown giving it back to Lyndon Dunn. Can he go all the way? The goal unguarded. It's a good kick. A very good kick. The Demons by 3 goals. Lyndon Dunn, defender, goal kicker.
He's a veteran of the game and underrated at that. Please welcome Lyndon Dunn to Marngrook, folks. And Layla's back with us too. And Lyndon, welcome to the Marngrook Footy Show. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
And Collingwood, the last few weeks you've been close. You've had teams on the ropes, but you just couldn't sort of hit them with that knockout blow at the end. But how's the playing group holding up at the moment, seeing you've been so close but so far away? And just what's the mood like down there? And how's Bucks been with the playing group as well?
Yeah, look, the vibe has been the same as it has been all year. It's been really upbeat and not much changes, you know, in the 4 walls, whether we win or lose week to week, which is a nice thing to have. We've been around the mark for a lot of the season, but we've definitely got a few big games coming up this week, and it starts with the Bombers.
Hey, Lyndon, thanks for coming on the show, brother. And I know this is your first time because I was sure we had you on before, but anyway. No, look, I love the way you played at Melbourne and, you know, the stuff that you did there, and you was part of the leadership group there. And I just used to love the way you went about it, because you're a very hard player, and I know you expect a lot of yourself, the way you play. One thing I used to love was when you did the spirals. Now, not many players can do the spiral, and when I say the spiral, I mean the torpedo punt. And when I see it in a modern-day footballer, it's just so refreshing. And I don't know if Bucks encourages you, but when you kick the ball out, you should do it more often.
Yeah, well, when you pick the footies out of the bags behind the goals, doesn't matter which cheer squad it is at either end, they're always sort of calling for a barrel, and there's always a little bit of abuse coming from the opposition cheer squad as well. But if you can get onto one, it's nice, and it's a skill that's sort of been lost in the game, I think. So,
did you work on it, or was that
well,
natural?
I like to kick them at training, and I've always kicked them as a kid growing up, and I've always had a fairly decent kick on me, so might as well make the most of it.
Yeah. Lyndon, you played at Melbourne for quite a while, and then there's always a transition going from one club to the other, but you also had a son, Emmett, who was also a part of that transition. What were some of the things that Collingwood did to try and get him on the bandwagon over to Collingwood?
Yeah, so I remember maybe the first time I went into the club, I took Emmett along with me, and they were cleaning the 2010 Premiership Trophy. And we drove to school after that, and he sung the Collingwood theme song about 50 times in the car. So it was across the theme song, and he got a new footy jumper as well, which he's pretty happy about. Yeah. He still asks about the Ds and the boys at the club and how they're going, and because the clubs are right next to each other, he sees it all the time. But he's been great, and the footy club's been great with him.
That's lovely.
Danny, we were talking backstage about the women's comp, and you mentioned how you were helping out with the Collingwood's team last year. So you're going to help out again this year, and are you going to look forward to coaching post footy?
Yeah, well, I think the AFLW is really exciting, and you know, my family's involved in women's football. I've got a sister that plays, and I'm passionate about the game. We saw last year what the women can do and how exciting it is. And I think at Collingwood we're grateful that we have a licence, and I know there's other clubs that are looking to get a licence. Yep. So hopefully, haven't finalised anything yet, but hopefully my role will step up, you know, within the women's side, and I can help out with some expertise and some coaching, and get the girls going, you know, during the pre-season.
Nice.
Lyndon, I watched your game last week against the Hawks, and I thought that young De Goey played a ripper game, and it made me think, gee, he's got a bright future. So tell us a bit about him.
Yeah, look, Jord had a breakout game last week in the midfield, and you know, he's a high draft pick. He's got a lot of talent. Had a few hiccups earlier in the season with breaking his hand, and we've worked through that. But look, Geordie is a super talent, and once he gets his work rate right week to week and learns how to build his engine and do those little things that count Monday to Friday, he's going to be a super player for our footy club.
It was interesting before we had Michael Hibbert on, who's taken over your old jumper, number 14 at Melbourne, so got something in common there with him. But when you're at Melbourne, you used to kick some great goals, and you love, as Gilly said, you love unleashing the torpedo punt. And since you've gone across to the Pies, you've basically been playing a lot more down in defence. If it was up to you, and I know the usual standard reply would be, I'll play where the coach wants me to play, but if you could select yourself in the Collingwood team on the weekend, would you be playing up forward or would you play up back?
Yeah, look, it's funny. I was drafted as a forward and always played my junior footy in the forward line. But I would definitely, I wish I had gone back earlier in my career. My versatility in my game is a strength, but at the same time, it hurt me at times at Melbourne, and I was left out of the side, not owning a position on the ground. And I love playing in defence, and that's where I'll spend the rest of my days.
Now, last week we spoke about staging, and you've been the victim of it too. Do you remember getting reported of striking Brent Harvey a couple of years back, and what did you say to him after the game?
Yeah, I do remember this. I was spending some time in the midfield on this day tagging Boomer, and he was one of the craftiest getting around, and I was trying to use my strengths and get into him a little bit, and I got reported twice in 30 seconds actually on that day, and got off both. I got off both the charges. So look, it is what it is. It's a fierce, tough game, and sometimes these things happen. But yeah, I was pretty disappointed with that.
Wolsey, he'd get rubbed out this week, wouldn't he, Brent Harvey, for staging?
He would, yeah.
He'd get a couple of weeks for that. And you got reported by not one, but two umpires, so they were in good form on that game, weren't they?
It was Scotty McLaren both times, I think.
Can I ask you about your forward line? Because Collingwood's forward line, when I say that, because I just feel that's the area. I know they talk about the mids and the backs a lot. It must be very hard. Coxie, I know they dropped Reedy and they put Coxie in, and Coxie's probably got 5 kicks or something. He's kicked 3 goals, and I know it's great to have him up there. Just seems to me that you're a key position short, and you got Fasala and you got Jamie Ellett and you got your little Hoskin Elliots. Just seems to me that you're lacking another key forward. Grant talked about yourself. Could you be an option at centre forward, or what do you feel? Do you need that? Darcy Moore might be back. I don't know.
Yeah, well, look, our forward line's been spoken about all year, and we probably are missing, a key forward up there, and it's something we're going to have to look at in the trade period and drafting. Which we did last year. We took 5 key position players, but they're going to take time to develop. And we had Jamie come back last week, like you said, but 2 or 3 tall forwards. Definitely straighten you up a lot more.
Okay, well, let's look at your game now, Lyndon. Collingwood taking on Essendon. Saturday, Gilbert, at the MCG. 2 old foes, head-to-head.
Yeah, for the mighty Pies. Good to see Reid in there because he's back in the side. Trav Varco's back, and I know he played in the VFL, so he might be short of a gallop. Smith's also in the side. Ramsey's been omitted. Darcy, he's out. They're going to miss him with the hammy, and Phillips is with an illness. But Langdon, he's played 50 games. Well done. For the Bombers, they were very disappointing last week, and Myers is in there out the side, Langford, and gee, I'll tell you what, I bet you they couldn't wait for this game to come, Robert, after last week's effort.
Yeah, they were disappointing, weren't they, in the end, the Bombers? So you're right, Gilly, they'll be keen to get out there again. You mentioned Mason Cox. I think Collingwood have got to continue to play him for the rest of the year because he's out of contract and they need to make a decision after giving him a good run of games. Ben Reid comes back into the team. I hope they play him as a forward and just play Reid as a forward and leave this fella and Goldsack as the key defenders and just settle the team a little bit.
And Lyndon, this weekend is the Hold and Bring a Blanket Day at the MCG in support of the Magpie Nest Foundation, helping put a roof over the heads of homeless people, and what fans can do to help out the homeless this weekend, and it will be a good thing to do. So yeah, good stuff there from the Collingwood Magpie Nest, folks. And you can make a donation towards getting a blanket for the homeless at the CFC Foundation.
I was going to say...
And the details on screen, Gil.
I was going to say one thing about Collingwood. They always help people out. They're a good club. They help a lot of people out.
They do, Gilly. But Lyndon, they do. I agree with you. I agree with you, Gilly.
I'm just acknowledging it.
But Lyndon, Jeremy Howe, who was also a former Melbourne player, has been elevated in an unusual mid-season decision to vice-captain, which congratulations to Jeremy. But how do you feel about him being elevated into the leadership group?
Yeah, I think it's reward for a lot of things that go unseen at our footy club, and also he's been in super form on the field. I played a lot of football with Jeremy at Melbourne, and also it's good to be playing with him at Collingwood. And the way he conducts himself, in the change rooms and at training, he deserves every bit of this to be elevated into the leadership group, and the boys found out this morning. We're very happy for him.
Okay, well, Wolsey, let's get a selection on this game. Collingwood or Essendon?
Magpies for me.
Magpies for Wolsey. Of course, mate, you'll go for Lyndon. Sean, your selection?
Yeah, Magpies for me too.
Magpies for Sean. Layla?
Grant, this is the 68th meeting at the MCG between Collingwood and Essendon. 34 wins to Essendon, 31 wins to Collingwood and 2 draws, and I think Collingwood will win this one.
Oh, Bruss, it's going to be war. It is, because Essendon coming off a very disappointing loss and they'll be very upset. And Collingwood, well, they need to show something for Buckley and for their coach. This game's going to be on. I'm not going to make a prediction because it's going to be...
Another draw?
Nah.
3 draws.
I reckon just bring it on, and I'm going to watch and sit down with my popcorn.
You're going to get too many splinters sitting on the fence there, Gilbert. Now, what can people do, Lyndon, to help this cause on the weekend?
Yeah, so people can bring a blanket along to the game, new or used, and drop it at the bins at any of the main entry gates. There's over 200 people that sleep in our CBD every night that are homeless. So it's a great initiative, and well done to Holden and our footy club for organising it.
Yeah, well done, boys.
Okay, Gilly, I'm going to go for Collingwood's going to win this one, finally. Lyndon, thanks for joining us tonight. Put your hands together, folks. Right, Lyndon done a quick break, then Rowan Connolly's up next. Don't go away. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Marngrook. It's time to chat now with Rowan Connolly. Welcome, Rowan, folks. And what's on your mind this week, Rowan?
Oh, like Grant, it's been a pretty controversial week in the footy world, really.
But a big week.
Look, I think one of the more interesting discussions has probably been around the concept of a red card for AFL footy, and it's something that traditionally most people have been opposed to, but it's been interesting how many people are sort of getting on board with it. I think Chris Judd's come out in favour of it, Lee Matthews, Paul Roos, Gerard Healy as well. So I'm going to play the anti here. I'm very against it for a number of reasons. I think AFL football is probably as clean as it's ever been now. I mean, it's not a patch on when you played, Rob. I mean, your cohorts and you have got up to a lot of stuff now that you'll never play again. So the game's been sanitised really effectively, I reckon. In fact, just to give you some numbers, since 2009, there's only been 3 penalties of more than 4 games handed down. So that's over 9 seasons. So the Tom Bug incident with Callum Mills, I mean, that was a real throwback. It smacked of the 70s, or smacked literally of the 70s, and I just don't think we need to go to those extremes. There's also problems like it wouldn't take into account the circumstances leading up to an incident, whether there was provocation involved or what happened first. And the other thing is, and I understand the argument that Callum Mills was taken out of the game for the rest of the game and left them a man short, but that can happen in a heavy tackle. You know, if a guy sling tackles someone and he hits his head on the ground and is concussed, he's out for the rest of the game. Do you send the guy off that perpetrated that? I just think it's pretty complicated, and I think it's something they'd need to think a lot more, just a lot more in depth. I'd want to see more evidence that it was happening on a greater level than just one isolated incident.
Well, in relation to that, you're talking about the lead up to a particular incident. Is there a debate or an argument that there could be a yellow card as well as the red card? Because that's obviously what we see in soccer, in other games, that, you know, the yellow card is the warning, that if you do that again, then you're off, and then the red card is like, you're off, definitely. Yeah,
look, I guess so. I'm a bit worried about who actually has the power to implement that too, whether it's the umpire on the ground. Someone suggested the guys that do the goal review stuff. But again, they're far removed from the actual play. They're not privy to the circumstances leading up. And I mean, Sean, you're out there every week. I mean, we all know that in some incidents, there's a bit of a prelude to some incidents where someone's provoked.
What do you think, Sean? Red card, yellow card, green card, might have a blue card, white card?
Yeah, I'm undecided, to be honest. I'll probably just sit back and listen to the guys who've been in the game for 20, 30, 40 years, have seen the trends of the game and how it's changed. So I'm undecided on it. But it's in a country footy and amateur footy. I'm not too sure if it works there or not, but I'm undecided.
And that's a very good point, because I know there was a situation, you know, in Cairns quite a few years ago where a final was actually won in that capacity. And look, I wouldn't like our game to come to that stage where it's going to happen in a finals, and then all of a sudden we're going to act. I hope it never comes to that, but I think we need the 10-minute rule at least. We need something. If it's not a send-off rule, it's got to be the 10-minute rule, because it's going to cost somebody a final or even a grand final one day. I don't know.
Well, just to answer that point, I mean, one of the reasons given, Rob, for bringing in a red card system is, well, what if someone just knocks someone out to win a grand final? But for as long as I've been following footy, people have talked about that. I've never actually seen it happen.
I've seen it happen in my time.
In AFL?
At AFL level, in a final, 2 of our players got knocked out. We played with no interchange bench, and they won the game.
Was it St Kilda?
And it was in a final. I won't say what game, but I know.
Was it St Kilda?
I'm giving an example.
Hang on a second. The interchange bench came in 1978. I didn't think you'd been playing that long, Gilly.
No, sorry. We had two, but we couldn't.
I think I know you're talking about. I think the Geelong.
I'll tell you later on.
Geelong St Kilda final in '91.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting one, and we should debate it. And if a player is put out of the game with concussion, but if a player is put out of the game with concussion, I think video of what happened for that player to be put out should be looked at, not by the umpires who are officiating, but someone up in the stand, a respected former player. If it was a sling tackle that put the player out, I'd be very reluctant to send the player off the field who did the sling tackle, because I think there are grey areas.
Well, it might be accidental.
It could be. But if it's absolute obvious, like Thomas Bugg punching Mills, I think then there's a good case to say, well, that player no longer takes part of this game, because the opposition have lost a player, you deserve to lose a player.
Well, the irony here is, I don't disagree with that, but the irony there is we had this circumstance covered with the sub, and then the coaches and the club started whinging about the whole concept of having a sub, and we got rid of it. So if we'd had the sub like we had up to a couple of years ago, Callum Mills could have been replaced last week.
What
and they
happened if you
wouldn't
get
have
two
been
knocked out? You only got one sub then.
We had 2 subs, Gilly.
Let's hold it there. Xavier Campbell, he tweeted after the game, the Essendon official there, and what do you think about that?
I think it's, well, we'll see here the tweet. So Essendon, one of their worst losses in years. Xavier Campbell, the CEO of Essendon, tweets, not good enough, not even close. Fans deserve so much better. I was sitting in the outer last Sunday. I've never seen Essendon supporters so annoyed. I was certainly one of them. But, you know, can the CEO of a club not actually say that? And I couldn't believe it when I picked up the paper yesterday, I think it was, and read that he felt like he had to apologise to the players. He didn't single anyone out. He didn't make it personal. All he said was this performance wasn't good enough, which I reckon the players probably had an idea of themselves, that they're so precious that they can't take the CEO saying, now, hang on, Gilly, I'm on a roll here. Seriously, I mean, look, I know Essendon's got to tread warily since the supplement saga, because the whole club's a bit sensitive to overreacting and hurting people's feelings. But if the playing list can't take a bit of gentle criticism from one of the highest office bearers of the club, that probably sums up why they've been a pretty mediocre club for the last 15 years.
Koshy said it a couple of years ago, so get over it.
Okay, well, let's go to our next game, shall we? And it's Hawthorn taking on GWS. Saturday in Tasmania. It will be cold. Bring your Ugg boots and your jacket.
Oh, gee, and look out, because the Hawks are coming, Shawnee, and I know you're going to say put a lid on it, Gilly, but I'm not. Stewart's in the side. Birchall, they'll miss him because he's a star for them. And Smithy, Isaac, 150, well done. For the GWS, Mazungu, he's an ex-Fremantle Docker. Perriman's also in there. Stevie J. Have a rest, Stevie. We need you next week. Finn Layson's out with a knee. Shawnee, take your Eskimo pies and your heaters and your blankets.
Eskimo pies are ice cream.
Yeah, I know. Well, they're playing over in Tasmania, so it's going to be very cold.
Now, Sean, this game is your pink ribbon game, and you'll be wearing a pink Guernsey, and your teammates have too, of course, in support of the Cancer Council of Tasmania. And at the match, all Guernseys will be auctioned after the game, and all funds will be going to the Council of Tasmania. And you can bid for the jumpers by going to the Hawks Nest online.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this game to play GWS down there. We know they've got a powerful midfield, some tall forwards who are in form as well. And
Put a lid on it, keep a lid on it.
I'm pretty. I like the pink socks as well. You'll see me wearing them pulled right up. And like I said, all proceeds after the game, the club will celebrate. All proceeds go to the Cancer Council in Tasmania.
Good cause, folks, isn't it? So everyone get online.
No, but on a serious note, Shawnee, it's a very good test for you, and the way he's been going, you can win this game over there.
You know, it's a great test for us. You know, Mumford's playing some pretty good footy for them. He's a beast of a man and very intimidating, so it's going to be a challenge for us. And like I said, the midfield's very strong, very powerful runners. Dylan Shields having a good year, and Callum Waterways leads from the front. And their forwards, Lob keeps taking marks, Cameron keeps getting better. You know, they've got some really good players, Lockie Whitfield and Scully on the wings, and then you've also got Kelly as well, so he's gone to another level with his footy. So the challenge is there for our team. We've got a lot of young players, but they're firmly setting themselves up for this challenge.
Now, Rowan, you've really become the new kiss of death, taking over from the great Louis the Lip. I'll just remind you, a few weeks ago, you pumped up Adelaide, said they wouldn't get beaten for the year the next week, and they went out and got beat. And then you pumped up Melbourne last week, and everyone on the panel went for Melbourne, except for me. I went for Sydney.
I went for Sydney.
What about the Hawks? Can they make the 8? You're going to put the kiss of death on them.
I'm just trying to think, do I want them to make the 8 or not? Yeah, I reckon they'll definitely make the 8, sure.
Okay, well, let's get selections. Wolsey, Hawks.
I saw the Hawks last week and I was very impressed with their young players, and I really like Sicily playing in the back line, thought he was good. And Sean, when you run out over there in Tasmania for the pink ribbon game, there will be a lot of people there as you run out supporting the pink ribbon cause. One of them will be my sister. Okay, so say hello to her.
I'll say hello. I normally give the guys high fives.
Hawks for me.
Okay, Hawks for Wolsey. Rowan.
In all seriousness, I think it's a bit of a danger game for GWS. They've only played down there once before, and that was 4 years ago. Hawks in pretty decent form now, but I'll go for the Giants by a kick.
Okay. And Sean, of course, we know you're going with your Hawks. Layla.
I'm sticking with Sean's Hawks.
Billy.
Oh, look, I've got to mention O'Brien because he's been a really good... He's turned the corner for you, and you know what? I've already said my upset. Sorry, Shorty. GWS.
And before we go, Gilly, to the break, I have the pleasure of revealing the Coburg Football Club's NAIDOC jumper. They'll be wearing that this Saturday. It's designed by Mandy Nicholson, and it's based on the Merry Creek, and the claw marks symbolise the attacking lion. Well done to Mandy, and I'll be speaking at their lunch before the game on Saturday too, Gilly, so I'm excited about that. And the club have just released an extra 10 tickets for the lunch due to a huge demand. So book your tickets now, go online or phone the club, and it's going to be a very big day down there. And Rowan, seeing you went for GWS, did you?
I did.
All right, I'm going to go for Hawthorn in an upset then. Okay, time to take a break. Heaps more still to come, including Rounds of Our Lives.
There are many great stories here at Princess Park, which Carlton historian Tony DeBolfo remembers fondly. We're here to hear a few of them. Where did your love for the Carlton Football Club begin?
Well, I've always said, Layla, that anyone who supports a football club does so based on either family or territorial reasons. My grandfather came to Australia from northern Italy in 1927, and probably some of the best memories I have of coming to Carlton with my father and grandfather and watching Carlton play from the terraces of the old ground.
What is your role here now at Carlton Football Club?
So I'm still employed here at the club in the media department, but I'm also the unofficial historian. And one thing I've learned about being a historian at a traditional VFL, AFL club like Carlton is I realise how much I don't know.
How did the Ghosts of Princess Park tour begin?
The idea was to take our members on a twilight tour of the ground, to walk a slow lap of the old Princess Park Oval and revisit famous moments that happen in games. So we found that really struck a chord with people for whom Princess Park meant so much.
Do you have a favourite story that you like to share with groups on the tour?
There's a great story I like to relate, Layla, in respect of the old Robert Heatley stand, which was behind the goals at the Royal Parade end of the ground. Sadly, it's gone the way of the wrecking ball. It's no longer about. But Robert Heatley was a former Carlton player and president of the club. His grandson, David Adams, I think is in his 80s now, and when the Heatley stand was demolished, he contacted the club asking if he could souvenir some of the old bricks from the Heatley stand. He took a few home to put in his garden path in the back of his house. One brick he kept for the Coburg Cemetery to place on Robert Heatley's grave.
Tony, even though Princes Park is no longer used for AFL matches, why is it such an important place?
I guess for me, the memories are personal. I remember walking to the ground with my grandfather and my father in tow, watching games from the outer at the Garden Street end, and I can still see to this day John Nichols, Sid Jackson, Alex Jesselenko, Gary Crane. The images seared into my memory. For many of us, a special place, and I dare say it's just as special for Richmond supporters at Punt Road, Windy Hill, Victoria Park, wherever it may be.
And great work there, Layla. Welcome back to Marngrook, and a great story there from Tony de Bolfo. And he's a lovely bloke, isn't he, Rowan? I met him a few times. He's obviously watching tonight, so congratulations, Tony, on a good job you're doing down there at the Navy Blues, Wolsey. And
he's a great media man, Tony. Started at the old Sun News Pictorial and was doing some historical tours of the ground a couple of years ago, and loves the Blues, and he's a ripping fella.
It was wonderful, Grant, being able to meet Tony and hearing some of the wonderful memories that he has of Princes Park.
Yep,
So,
super fella.
Hi,
Okay, let's have a look now, shall we, Gilly, at the Marngrook Player of the Week, proudly sponsored by the Victorian Police. And Gilly, they're now recruiting, so check out their website for more info, and let's check out the votes, Layla, for last weekend's round.
yes, and on top we have Michael Walters from Fremantle after that amazing game with 11 points. We've got Buddy Franklin there from Sydney on 7 down. We've got Port Adelaide represented twice with Chad Wingard and Sam Pepper. But some wonderful stats here by Michael Walters: 32 possessions, 18 contested possessions, I might say, 6 marks and 6 goals. And Gilly, Michael Walters, that game against St Kilda was amazing.
Oh, look, if you talk about players and the games that they remember, you know, for the rest of their, you know, when they retire, he'll look back at that game and, yeah, that's just one of the most incredible games I've ever seen from an individual.
Yeah,
bit like Gary Ablett when he kicked 9 in a losing grand final, but he kicked 6.
We could go on and on, but we won't. Okay, well, it's time now for Round of Our Lives.
Segments gaining traction, I can tell. Some great old memories from round 16 of years gone by to get through tonight. So let's get straight into it with this ripping mark. This grab by Fitzroy star Alistair Lynch in 1989 against North Melbourne on a muddy MCG was a classic, judged the mark of the year, and another excuse to show some old footage of a much-loved departed member of the old competition, the Roy Boys. Let's switch forward 4 years now to 1993. Essendon wins a thriller over defending Premier West Coast, causing Bomber coach Kevin Sheedy to go crazy ape bonkers with his jacket. A gesture which 24 years on is still a staple of any game between the Bombers and the Eagles. Yeah, clap. And now for our top 3. Number 3, it's 1995, Brisbane versus Hawthorn at the Gabba, and the Hawks have got this game won. They're leading by 45 points at three-quarter time. But Brisbane coach and our very own Robert Walls spots a weakness. He sees the Hawks at the huddle taking shade under a light tower on a hot day. A red rag to a bull, if ever there was one. The comeback is on, and look out for a special guest appearance from some guy running off the interchange bench at the final siren.
Used the body. He used the body. Couldn't take it. Ashcroft is there. Ashcroft over the top. Marcus! You've goal! Does have a chance. Looks like Lawrence on that outer side. Comes steaming in towards goal. Over the top of White. It bounces through for a goal!
Good kick from about 75 out. Hawthorn have to be very careful here. Work done to the ball was Graham. It bounces through for a goal.
Joyful today.
There's the siren.
Nice jacket, Gilly. Love the jacket.
That's when we actually lifted, when Gilly went off.
You know what? It's a true point, isn't it? Nah, look, I remember that game, Robert, and I think we came back from Perth and we were in trouble and we were going really ordinary. But you know what? From that game on, we actually made the finals that year and it was a great effort.
It was. That Stevie Lawrence goal went about 80 metres. I can remember that, but it still is the best three-quarter time fight back of any team in AFL history.
What I remember, Rob, is that the Bears really lifted after you announced you weren't going to be coaching the next year.
Okay.
Funny about
Number
that.
two.
Number 2, the scene is Cairns 2012, and with just 30 seconds left on the clock, Richmond leads Gold Coast by 10 points. It's game over, or is it? The Suns' Jared Harbrow runs in and kicks one. It's back to the centre with 25 seconds left. Who's going to step up? Why, of course, it's a former rugby league star.
Their opponents are run to the defensive side. If it comes out this side, they're in forward 50. Who will get the clearance? Grigg with a smothered kick. Oh, it's coming. Swallow. McKenzie can kick it a long way. Throws it on the boot. A hero needed. Almost Brennan. 10 seconds to go. Matera. Hooks it back. Carmichael. It comes to Carmichael Hunt. Oh, no! Is he the hero that the Suns believe he is? He definitely is.
Great stuff. I love Dermy's little soprano effort in the background there with the comments. Now, how about this for number 1? The greatest comeback in AFL history. It's 2001 at the MCG, and Essendon have been stunned by a pumped-up North Melbourne. So much so that 10 minutes into the second quarter, the Roos are already a massive 69 points up. Can the Bombers avoid a 100-point defeat and complete humiliation? Well, it turns out they can do a lot more than that.
Today, he's never seen anything like this, he reckons. Shannon Grant can kick another one. Don't tell me it's going to sneak in. It has. They cannot miss.
Carousella, he can launch one. He had the time. He used the time. He used it wisely and kicks a goal. Here on the boot, and Lloyd's going to get another one. He's going to get another one. 6 to the best from me. What a year he's had, and what a kick that is under pressure. Essendon, dribbling kick, Mercury, brilliant stuff. Corey McGrath passes it for Alessio. It doesn't matter. He didn't touch Blake Carousella. It's all over now.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. Probably the last hurrah for that Essendon era. They'd go on to lose that year's grand final, and 16 years later, much to my annoyance, they're still waiting for another crack. Well, that's it for this week. Terrific stuff from the Vault of Nostalgia because, like Jack Dyer, God love him, mangling the English language, so are the rounds of our lives.
Okay, Gilly, let's go straight to our last game. Sydney taking on the Gold Coast, and no changes for the Sydney Swans. Gilly, they're chock full of confidence.
Nah, they don't need no change, and you better look out because if they make the 8, every side be looking at them. For the mighty Gold Coast, good to see McKenzie back, McPherson and Bowers. I like that young kid. Ablett's out with a hammy, Hanley's out with a hammy, Leslie, but that young McKenzie, 100 games, well done. SCG.
Yes, okay, Wolsey, a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for the Sydney Swans.
Oh, they've been...
for the Gold Coast, rather.
Well, yeah, they've played some better football, but Sydney's red hot at the moment, and I can't see them dropping this one.
And Tom Lynch is one of those players too you have to watch, Sean, because if he gets on top early, they'll give it a good shake.
Yeah, he will. He's one of those big guys, works extremely hard. I think he kicked 4 or 5 on the weekend. So back to his best. So they have to be very close. I think Dane Rampey will be probably suited up to him.
Okay, let's get selection. Wolsey, Sydney or the Gold Coast?
Sydney.
Sydney. Wolsey. Rowan?
All you need to know is Ablett out, Sydney win.
Jordy?
Yeah, I'll go with Sydney as well.
Sydney as well, okay. Lots of love for the Swans. There wasn't that love last week, Layla.
Just wanted to say very quickly, happy NAIDOC week to everyone, and Sydney for me.
Okay. Billy, your selection?
Sydney will, and Sydney will play in the grand final this year.
Oh, that's a very big prediction. And I think the Sydney Swans will probably win this one, but geez, the grand final, Gilly, that's saying something, isn't it?
Well, they've been there and done it, and they've got the list.
Okay, and what about St Kilda? They won't make the 8 still?
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, that's it for another edition of the Marngrook Footy Show. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week, but for now, good night and enjoy your footy.